We have Caleb Durbin on the podcast today. He's been in the news recently. I think a month ago, so he was traded to the Milwaukee Brewers from the New York Yankees. And before we get into this podcast, let me give you a little bit introduction of Caleb. He was one of three drafted from Washington University in St. Louis, D3 school. Never been done before. Only one of three kids in Division Three. Do you want to know what percentage of people end up playing professional baseball? I looked it up. It's 0.1%. He is this close to being part of that 0.1%. He won Arizona Fall League Breakout Player of the Year. He is currently competing for an open day spot on the Brewers roster, and he's ranked number 15 in the Brewers prospect organization. That is respect. And Caleb, thank you so much for coming on Gross Potential. I'm so excited to have this conversation.
I mean, that was quite an introduction. I need to keep you around more often. Jeez.
I appreciate it. Well, with that being said, let's get right into it. So I'm wondering this, and I think a lot of people when you're younger, it's always like in the back of your mind. It's the most common thing. In middle school, the teacher asks you, what do you want to do when you're older? And every kid, man, I want to play professional baseball. I want to play basketball. I want to do this. But as you get older, reality kind of strikes you. And then you're like, is it really possible? Then your parents may say one thing and your friends, and self-doubt creeps in. I'm trying to understand, was that you? And what kept you so committed to this dream of playing professional baseball?
Yeah, it is interesting because that does seem like the traditional path is as you get older, the reality sets in. You kind of see how good everyone is around you, and for me, wasn't getting any D1 looks, so you would think that it's discouraging, and it's would kind of take my mind away from it and onto other things. But it's been something that as I've gotten older, I've only gotten more and more confident that I can, kind of do it. I've always kind of felt like I was one of the better players in the league growing up. All the travel ball games, like I always led off and played shortstop on every team I ever, played on. And I'm playing against good competition, seeing where I'm stacking up with them. I think the kind of the thing that is hard for other people to understand with my journey is the whole Division 3 route,
Right.
and how that kind of came about. Um, and I think there's a lot of different things that go into it. I'm not the biggest guy. I'm not necessarily the flashiest in a showcase. And that kind of goes a long way with where you're ranked in your state. I was never ranked in high school, perfect game, PBR. Never really got the attention that maybe I thought I deserved. And I think that kind of does go a long way towards what colleges are looking at you. At the same time, though, I also had these kind of other interests. I took school seriously. Obviously, WashU is a really good school. One of the top schools in the country. So, there's other things that I needed to set in stone in my life that if baseball didn't work out, I'd have that fallback plan, and WashU kind of was that for me. But going into that a little bit more, kind of that fallback with WashU, having that degree allowed me to go all into baseball. So to answer your question, it's been more of every single year. I've gotten more and more serious about it.
Right.
From high school onto college, and the whole D3 thing. I mean, we'll get into it a little bit more probably, but never really deterred me from going after it.
So you're saying, okay, so that's a very interesting point. I think a lot of in life and what I'm trying to understand, or what I have understand, is like the most important thing is to have a definite chief aim, like a definite end goal. And you repeat that goal to yourself every single day, and more and more you believe it. And that's when it starts to become a reality. But it seems like coming in to college, you had this goal of, okay, professional baseball player. But also in the back of your mind, there was academics, and it was a plan B. But typically, a plan B can kind of erode onto plan A and not make you work as hard. But you're saying that plan B actually helped you out and gave you ease of mind?
Yeah, honestly that's a really good way of putting it. It was a plan B. You always, I mean, Coach Bloom was my head coach, your head coach at WashU, and during these fall meetings, he'd always have he'd always ask the question, "What do you want to do after college?" And I always, told him I wanted to continue playing baseball, and then he'd ask me, "What do you want to do with your degree?" And I'm like, I don't know. I'm here to get the degree in case I need it, but
Yeah.
I'm hoping I don't need it for at least a little bit after college. So it's kind of the plan B was tucked away in my back pocket if I needed it, and that was a safety blanket. So okay, I can, I need that if I'm going to go the D3 route. I need the academic portion of it if I am going to go the D3 route because it is tougher to get noticed.
Yeah.
I feel like from a development standpoint, I was able to develop just as much at a D3 program as I would have at a D1 program. I can confidently say that because I've played with a lot of D1 guys in summer ball in college. I saw where I stacked up with those guys, and I knew I was on a good path developmentally. But it's just all about I'm a 5'6" guy out of a D3 school. Am I really going to get the attention that I think I should be getting? And then we could go into a whole nother thing with my mindset of playing summer ball. I knew I had to stand out.
Right.
If I figured if I was better than these guys and my numbers showed it, and I played hard, and I could catch the attention of at least one scout. And that's kind of all it took. But back to your original question, yeah, that plan B was basically a safety blanket for me to really go full force into plan A.
I've actually, and I'm not just saying that. I've never heard someone say that before. So I think that's a very unique angle that you took, and that's super interesting. On the topic of college, though, you brought it up. You said that you don't think you're at a disadvantage being at a D3 school, getting work in compared to Division One. I played baseball here my first 2 years, and one of my questions was, it's like, in my opinion, you're at a significant disadvantage. We had at WashU, we had something called the swing space. It's a racquetball court. That's how big that thing is. You don't have a full length cage. You don't really have a machine. You can't really put a machine in the swing space, and it's not going to be normal length. And so your reps are significantly limited. If you want to get ground balls, there's no coach on duty to go hit you ground balls. You have to get a student to do that with you. And WashU is one of the toughest academic schools in the entire country. So kids are busy. They're not prioritizing baseball. I want to understand what your work ethic was like in college, how you made time with it. Did you do it solo? Did you bring kids along? And how did you maximize this? Because it's not easy.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a gritty setup, which is kind of right up my alley. It's like you said, it's a racquetball court, and it's a lot nicer now than it was when I was there. They got the hit track set up and turfed out with the mats on the edges. But I mean, to kind of put into perspective, we'd have our morning lifts at 6 a.m. For hour and a half. Right after that, I was in the swing space every day, hitting off the tee. This was my freshman year. I'm hitting off the tee, able to kind of get a teammate or two to come along once in a while. But most of the time, I'm just hitting off the tee, and then I got these trainer mitts. I'm basically just peppering balls off the wall and catching short hops. I'm doing that for hours, up until I have class. So basically what I meant by saying that I felt like I was able to develop the same is that at the end of the day, no matter where you are, what path you choose, it's on you. It's your career. You have to take accountability. And I knew that early on. D3, you only get 15, 16 team practices as it is.
Mm-hmm.
And those are for the team. Like you're getting your chemistry down with your teammates. You're getting your plays down, first, third, all that good stuff on defense. The time away was where I was really going to be able to try to separate myself, not just at the D3 level, but I'm competing with everyone in the country if I'm trying to get looks for the draft. So that's kind of the mindset I took, and yeah, I'm getting two sessions a day outside of just our team practice, trying to get that work in. And then sophomore year, we really came around as a program, I think. And my class had a ton of really, really hard workers. I think my freshman year is really just me and my roommate. We're getting after it. And then we kind of got, 3, 4, 5 guys in our class to really step up and put a lot of work in outside of just practice, because that's what it took. We ended up being one of the top teams in the country really every year I was there, but made a run at the World Series junior year, and it's because we were putting in more work off the field, 100%. Like that's why we were able to kind of make that run. So yeah, I was a D3 school, but I also had guys around me who took baseball really seriously, and that's also a super unique experience that I got to have at the D3 level that probably not a lot of other D3 teams are doing. I still talk to those guys every day. Like, they're tapped into my career as if they're still playing, so definitely had a good culture. Once my sophomore year came around, we had a lot of guys putting in that work.
So I wonder, because the culture part, it's huge. And I've got to feel that you being there was something about you that brought everybody together and like wanted to work and get better. Because I don't think that was there when I was there my first 2 years. Like, we struggled a little bit. We were not as good as you guys. I think we were missing that person figure that brought everybody together. What do you think you had that drew everybody to you? Were you doing it on purpose? Was it strategy? Was there leadership to it? Or were you just a guy that just loved the game and you wanted to get work in, and you think people respect that and joined you?
It's just passion, man. Passion for the game. That's what's gotten me to this point. That's what I think helped us a lot at WashU, is it's people feed off of it, and I had a good understanding of, where I was at, what my goals were in baseball, and I understood where I was at and other people's goals. Okay. And I understood that just because there's guys who want to be doctors and lawyers and accountants on our team, I think they still bought in. Like, they bought into me and the program and what we're trying to do as a team. And I think having a guy like myself who, and again, there's other really good upperclassmen that paved the way for the program too. It is a completely a collective effort, but having, guys on your team that, yeah, they're gonna do the school thing. They care a lot about that, but they're baseball players first, and that's who Coach Bloom wants to get on the team. I was fully I went to WashU to play baseball. Yeah. I don't think a lot of guys can say that, quite frankly. We talked about the plan B. Like, school was plan B. I was there to play baseball, and I think other guys really fed off that. And our program really took off for, that time.
Yeah. So, okay. So when I came into WashU as a freshman, my goal was to be, I think it was the UAA Freshman of the Year. That was the goal I set out for myself. I didn't get that goal. I didn't come anywhere close to that goal. Division III baseball was tough. It was tough. And there are legit guys and dogs that come into this environment. You balled out, and you were one of the standouts. I think you won MVP twice, something related to playoffs in the College World Series. What was the moment in college where you're sitting there and it just snaps in your head. You say, holy shit, like I can play professional baseball. I can compete with any Division III kid in the country. I can compete with any Division I kid in the country. When was that moment for you, and what happened?
Yeah, I think, I mean, coming in as a freshman, my goal was to be a starter. I wanted to play a lot. Like that's what drove me to WashU. I knew there was, you know, kind of the way the roster was, that there would be a chance for me to start as a freshman, and that was goal number one. You know, once I was able to kind of do that, then it's like, okay, let me go back a little bit. Coming into college, I knew if I had any shot at getting drafted, I had to be one of the best players in D3 by the time I was draft eligible.
Mm-hmm.
So originally as a freshman, I wanted to be the best freshman in the country. When I got there, I kind of, again, not knowing really how good I was at that level, it kind of took a step back and said to myself, all right, I have to make the team first. I have to, try to win a starting spot first, because I'm way undersized even for D3. I'm the smallest kid on the team. It's like, let's get that first, and then once I started to have some success early in the season, then I was just kind of took off from there. Once I kind of felt that my teammates and Coach Bloom had a lot of confidence in me,
Mm-hmm.
I started to get a lot of confidence in myself. So that was big for me. Coach Bloom could tell right away. I definitely took it more seriously than a lot of guys. I was pretty dialed in even as a freshman. I think a lot of guys could see that. But I didn't really know that I could really play professionally. Again, like, I try to be as realistic with myself as possible. I know even if I am the best player in D3, like, I'm not big. Like, scouts really, put a lot of emphasis on tools and projection and what a kid's ceiling is. And I don't really fall into any of those categories. So I was still trying to be realistic with myself, even though I, did put all this work in and put up really good numbers at, the places I was at. I, in my mind, did everything that I possibly could have. But it wasn't until I saw my name pop up on the draft board where I was like, all right, I'm a professional baseball player. That's pretty cool. And even when I got to rookie ball, you get overmatched your first season or whatever, you're kind of looking around like, what am I doing here? This is nuts. But with time, you kind of get settled in, and you look around and you kind of tell yourself you could play with these guys.
So, I mean, you were at WashU for 3 years, freshman, sophomore, junior, correct?
Yeah.
So every single one of these years, you still weren't sure if you were able to play professional baseball. Because it sounds like the minute you said, oh, you know what, I can actually do it, is when your name got on the draft board. But that doesn't come on until probably after your junior season. So through that whole process, there's still some doubt. You don't really know what's happening. Is that right?
I think the way I can phrase it better is that I believe that I was good enough. I
Yeah.
just didn't know if I would get the opportunity that I maybe thought that I could get. So the self belief was there. It was really high. A lot of my teammates will say that I was definitely confident with what I could do. But again, trying to be realistic with the numbers, like you said, not a lot of D3 guys even get to the next level. I think there's a lot of guys who are probably good enough. It's just you don't get the recognition. You don't get scouts out to your games. I will say I played with Ryan Ludis, who is one of the best pitchers in the country. Having both of us there that were kind of on D3 draft boards or D3 prospect lists, probably helps get at least a couple more, scouts out to our games. But yeah, it's more of that distinction of, I thought I could for sure, but not knowing if that opportunity would ever present itself.
Okay, so on the topic of self-belief, I am very, very passionate about this because I really think this is a driving force behind everything that you can accomplish in your life. I'll tell you some of the things I do for self-belief. Number one, I made a list of New Year's goals. I read that over every single day. I have affirmations in a book that I read over every single day. I sit in that bed for 5 to 10 minutes each morning and I visualize myself in the future accomplishing these goals or visualize myself as this person I want to be. All that stuff is the constant. I have two vision boards right here. I have all these sticking. All that stuff is to constantly prime my brain and get me to that point of self-belief because it's very difficult to get sometimes. Like self-doubt creeps in a lot. But it sounds like you were just always very, very confident and you always had this self-belief. Did you work to artificially create it? Or did it just come from experiences and words from the coaching staff?
I think confidence, for me at least, stems from preparation. You know, the work you put in. Um, I think Jeter said like the thing he hates most is not feeling prepared. You know, that's because that's where your confidence comes from. You know, baseball is, you know, one of the biggest sports. You know, I think that confidence goes a really long way. I mean, confidence goes a long way in anything,
Mm-hmm.
out of sports too. But when you're in the box and you don't have full confidence, like you're in trouble. Um, I think I've been really good at visualization kind of my whole life. Um, I mean, I would coming into college, I would look up where the field is for the D3 World Series just so I can see myself playing on that field and see us, you know, winning the last, you know, getting the last out and dogpiling. Like I visualize that stuff all the time, you know. Um, Even as a freshman, not knowing if I was going to play or not, I was already visualizing that stuff. You know, playing on Kelly Field, that stuff. You know, I feel like if you don't see yourself doing it first, um, you know, you can't really expect to do it in real life. I think
Right.
you know, if you're not, no one's ever done something that they didn't think they could do. And I think visualization just kind of helps aid you in kind of believing that you can do something. Um, but I think confidence, man, it's about that work. You know, you put in the work when, and it's work when no one's looking. That's
Yeah.
huge. You know, I think that's when you can really separate yourself because then you're gonna really want to get those results to show people, you know, what you have been doing.
Right. I completely agree. And I think one thing that you always hear in sports when you're a younger kid, and Yogi Berra said this, he said the game of baseball is 90% mental and 10% physical. I never, ever really understood that when I played baseball. Like it's my 20 years of playing baseball. I never understood that statement. I only understand it today. How, like, does everybody in a big league locker room adopt that phrase and are they fully behind it? And like, just how does that fit in with you and everybody else in the bigs?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the more I've had the opportunity to hear big leaguers talk about the mental side of the game, because like you said, it's a very big part. Um, they you know they go as far to say it's 100% mental because um, I think especially at the level I'm at now, um, because growing up, there's different levels of skill, right? Like some guys are just more talented than others. You're in the big leagues, everyone's good, everyone's really good. You know, so what kind of separates the good guys from the greats and the all stars and the guys who play for 10 plus years is between the ears. You know, it's between, you know, it's in your head because everything from your discipline with the way you recover, diet, prepare for the games, to how you feel in the batter's box, on the, you know, on the bases, in the field. You know, I think that once I kind of realized how big the mental side of the game was, I understood how I felt playing Division 3 baseball. I felt really good playing Division 3 baseball. I felt like I was the best player on the field every single game.
Mm-hmm.
How do I take that mindset and now shift it to feeling like that in pro ball? And you know, each level I go up, oh, I'm in AA now. These guys are better. I don't know if I belong. It's like, no, I have to have that same mindset that I had playing Division 3 baseball in the big leagues. Like I have to have it because um, the best thing you can kind of do is just free yourself up, and that's all it does. Is you have that confidence and that um, presence of mind to be in the right headspace. It just frees you up, and I think that's the biggest thing.
Well, I think confidence though, like confidence built over, I think a couple things. One of them is like small wins. You get little wins and that builds you up. I think self-confidence also comes from you are the person you say you are, meaning preparation. But if you're trying to transfer this feeling that you felt in college to now the big leagues, is it like a fake it till I make it? Or what are you actively doing to get that self-confidence?
I think you kind of hit it on the nail with the small wins. Um, it's just at a certain point, I think it was kind of fake it till I make it at a certain point in my pro career when I wasn't really playing well and I realized that I didn't have a lot of confidence
Yeah.
and I had to make that switch or else I saw like kind of the end of the road pretty quick. In single A when I was kind of going through it. But then, you kind of learn to take those small wins, like you said. And I've kind of, it's funny because I think that switch in the mindset honestly came before the wins. Like I had to really adopt that mindset before I really did anything in pro ball. I
Yeah.
kind of struggled through single A, was going through it in my head, like not in a good spot really. Kind of saw, like I said, I kind of saw the end of the road pretty close. I was losing playing time. I got benched for the playoffs. Like wasn't what you wanted. I didn't end my first season how most guys usually want to end their first season. So I kind of went back home and I said to myself, I didn't have a great year, but I did enough good things to where I had enough small wins throughout the year to where I could kind of feed off of it and take that going into the off season. But I knew I had to work harder than I ever did. So I had 5 months, which is a really long time to really get after it. And I did. I worked as hard as I could have. That would have been off season of 2022.
Yeah.
Going into that off season, I just told myself I have to work. I have to outwork everyone if I want to even have a shot. Um, and then I end up getting traded to the Yankees in December, which came out of nowhere. Didn't in my mind, I didn't do enough to warrant any other team to want me or even know my name. So that was kind of a pleasant surprise, kind of a nice, refreshing restart. Um, but yeah, going into 2023 with the Yankees, I had that, I finally kind of had that confidence, that mindset switch, and they helped me a lot with that too. Their hitting coordinators and fielding coordinators, were talking with me right after the trade and kind of told me like, hey, you do these things really well. Like I said, I did some good things that first season. Overall, I feel like I underperformed, but they at least saw the good things that I was doing and kind of told me that, hey, like these things that you need to work on, like we're good at helping guys with that. Like if you just improve in this area, which for me was, quality of contact. Like I still had really good bat to ball in,
Mhm.
right when I got to pro ball, but had a lot of things to work on with my swing and, how I was actually hitting the ball when I was hitting it. Um, and I mean, they gave me a lot of confidence too. So that went a long way. The work I put in the off season went a long way. And then once I started to actually get the success that did separate me from others, then you kind of get this snowball effect to where you're kind of rolling. But yeah, I think I didn't really get those wins until 2023, my second full season.
Usually when you get traded, it's like, shit, I got traded. Now this team doesn't want me, but it's totally different framing for you. And it was like almost this like invisible force of confidence. It's like someone actually wants me out there, and it helps you out. That's super super cool. I enjoyed hearing that right there. With the big leagues and moving on to the Yankees, I mean, people know some of the guys on the Yankees: Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, LeMahieu. Like, there's a lot of big name guys. What do you think? Like, spending time with those guys in a locker room, what separates those types of players from other guys in the bigs, from guys in the minor leagues? Is it talent? Is there something else that's there that's pushing them so far ahead of everybody?
They are definitely more talented. Um, they're both freaks in their in their own way. Both can do like pretty crazy things on the baseball field, but what I took away most from just being in the locker room with them is just the way they walk around. Like they have so much. It's funny, like you can joke about it, but they have a ton of aura. Like you can feel their presence in the clubhouse.
Okay.
Um, like you just know when they walk in. When they walk in, everyone looks at them, type of
Okay.
thing. And yeah, it's because they are really good at baseball, but I mean they know they're good, and they never play with any doubt. You know, maybe they do, but they don't show it. Um, but I think just there is a difference between guys in the minors and guys in the big leagues, and it is that mental side of the game. There's a lot of I play with a lot of really talented players in the minor leagues that were always higher ranked prospects than me, probably a lot more talented than me.
Right.
Um, more tools than I had, but I think it's once I kind of figured out that mental side of the game and understood like how I need to deal with failure and how I need to feel on the baseball field, how I need to feel when I'm hitting, all that sort of stuff. It's that mental side of the game, and that's what kind of separates the big leaguers to the minor leaguers. And there's obviously some talent involved too, some skill, but I think more than anything, it's like I've seen a ton of really talented guys in the minor leagues not make it, and it's not because they weren't good enough. It's just they couldn't pan out from a mental side of the game. I think.
From a work ethic standpoint, like, I remember this one kid. He's playing baseball at Notre Dame right now. He got drafted out of high school. It wasn't high enough though, so he didn't take it. But I think he's a starting catcher at Notre Dame. He'd always talk about, like, at some point, and I think he got this from like Jared Kelnick. I played baseball with Jared Kelnick's brother. I think he was drafted sixth overall. It's like at some point, less is more in the game of baseball. Like, is it really worth coming in and taking 500 swings each day? Maybe that gets in your head, bad mechanics. Maybe it's come and just get quality swings for a limited number of time. But from a work ethic perspective, from a guy like a Juan Soto or an Aaron Judge, are they gym rats? Like, are they always in the cage working, or are they more strategic with the stuff that they do?
I think it completely depends on what's going on with the player, how he's playing, what you really need to do. If you're rolling, less is more. It's during the season, especially, it really is get what you need, um, and work smarter, not harder. I've learned that the hard way. I've always been I'm gonna work harder, not smarter. I don't care. Like I don't can't afford not to work my butt off and work harder than these dudes because they're ahead of me and I gotta make up ground. That's always kind of been my attitude coming out of WashU. So, um, but in season, I've learned to kind of take that smarter, not harder approach. Um, I will say I know when Judge was kind of again had a crazy season last year. I know when was going through it that first month. I don't know if people were paying attention, but he was really struggling, like sub 200 batting average the first month because he didn't have spring training. He was hurt, so um, was kind of going through it. Taking his spring training lumps in in April when it should have been in March during spring training. Um, I know I know that he was staying up till midnight after games sometime trying to figure it out. So
Really?
there's times where guys are having to, you know, take 200 swings to try to feel something. You know, if
Yeah.
you're going through it and you've had that feeling before. I mean, I love hitting so much. I've become more obsessed with it every single year because I learn more and more about my swing and I learn more about other people's swings. And um, I mean, it's every single year, like, you know where your swing has to be and you know exactly if it's a little off, you know why. You know you're not feeling quite right. But if you lose it, it is hard to get back sometimes, especially, in the cage is one thing, but then you have to transfer it to, live pitching, which is a whole nother thing. So yeah, I mean, it's that grind. It's more mental than anything because physically you can do it, but mentally, do you remember the cue or the feel that you need to get back to really, being in control in the batter's box in the game, which is where it matters. But yeah, to answer your original question, I think I do I've always done the work harder, not smarter in the off season. I definitely, knowing how my body feels throughout the year. I think I think the best way I can explain it is I'm working really hard at recovery. I'm working hard in the weight room, but I'm also getting after it in recovery. Like, I'm getting more massages during the week. I'm stretching more. Like, it's not necessarily hard to do, but it is discipline. Sometimes you just want to, lay on the couch, but you got to get an extra hour of stretching in before you go to bed because that's going to make you feel better the next, for the game the next day.
That's a great point.
So it's kind of reframing what working hard is.
From your perspective, like, not being in the pros yet, and I know you've had 4 or so years through the minor leagues. Okay, so when spring training comes around each year, if I'm not mistaken, it's a unique opportunity to really be in a locker room with some big names and be surrounded by them, maybe hit with them too. So, as you, a guy who's trying to work your way up, are you always in some of these big time guys' back pocket asking, can I hop in with you? Can we swing here? Are you asking them questions, or do you kind of distance yourself and observe from afar?
So when I was a non-roster invite with the Yankees, it
Yeah.
was really trying to, there'd be groups. The big guys are all in one group, and kind of the non-roster guys were in one group. So, um, I'm playing in the same games as them though. So when I am around them, in passing or in the locker room, it's more of I'm watching their every move basically. I'm trying to pick up on things. If I have a chance to talk to them, I'm trying to talk to them. In big league camp, there's up to 70 guys in big league camp. Sometimes there's the 40 man, and then there's non-roster invites. This year, so far, I've been in Arizona for about 2 weeks, and there's been guys, that have good amount of big league time that I've been able to work with every day and talk to and kind of chop it up and, talk hitting, fielding, and whatnot. So, you obviously love those opportunities and learn as much as you can. So I think it's probably depends on the team too, the way they structure spring training. I know this year being on the 40 man, I'll be with a lot of those guys that are going to be in the bigs, already have a spot on the team. So hopefully more personal interaction, this time around.
Right. Just in a big league locker room, like, you spent time in there, what does it take to get respect? Is it solely a performance thing? Is it maybe attitude? Is it relationships? Is it money? Like, how do you get respect in there? Because it seems like you've earned respect being someone that's come from a WashU D3. Not an easy thing to do. What do you think separated you and some of the other players that you've seen?
Yeah, I think it's just being a good person and being a good teammate. I think it's the same as any other line of work. I think that goes way further than any skill. You know, how good you are at baseball, or what your signing bonus is, how much money you have. You know, I don't care how much money you're making. Like, are you a good teammate? You know, and that's the same with, the coaches. Like, everyone just wants to be around good people. Everyone here is good at baseball. I think to come together as a team and build that culture, it starts with being a good person, and being a good teammate, you know, actually getting to know them. There's my locker guy next to me in my locker is Hispanic or Latin, and we don't speak the same language. Well, I know a little Spanish, so I'll try to, chop it up with them. Where are you from? Try to get to know them a little bit. That little stuff goes a long way, and that's probably one of the bigger things that I've learned throughout pro ball is actually get to know your teammates. Don't just be there working together. Actually put effort into getting to know them, get to know their family, where are they from, what's their favorite food, that little stuff is great icebreakers to feel comfortable playing with them on the field. Because that's the biggest thing that too. Like, the more comfortable you are with your teammates off the field, in the locker room, the better you're going to come together on the field.
I was listening to a podcast yesterday with Tom Brady. So Tom Brady got asked the question of like leadership. It's like, Tom, what type of leader are you? Like, are you someone that's more, are you yelling at guys? Are you doing this and that? He said, leadership is one thing. It's caring for your teammates and connecting with them, because you have to establish some sort of trust, and then you can push their boundaries a little bit or say this or that. But like, it's that underlying core. And I think that's so applicable to like every single place in business, even professional locker rooms. So I love that you brought it up. Right now, I mean, how many weeks are you away from opening day? When is opening day? Like April 1st?
No, it's March 27th.
March 27th. Okay, so you got a little bit over a month until your future could, boom, change like that. What's your mindset every single day coming into camp? Because you're competing for a spot. How does that dynamic work with coaches? How does it work with guys you're competing against? I'm very curious about this.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because it is also a new organization for me. Usually if you're trying to, coming up with, I say I came up with the Yankees because I was, with them in single A, double A, and triple A. So I knew all the, most of the players in the minors, and, knew basically most of the guys, on the big league roster. So I already knew that. I already knew the coaches. So a big thing that's kind of new for me is honestly just, like I said, getting to know my teammates, kind of just build that comfortability, which has helped a lot coming early. Already, having a ton of conversations with some of the guys and some of the coaches before spring training has even started. And then it's just kind of doing what I've been doing. I've in my mind, done all the right things to get here. Now it's just continuing to do all the right things, away from the field, at the field, just trying to kind of, just play baseball and put myself in the best position to stay healthy, play hard, and the rest is going to take care of itself. I'm not really thinking about, oh, I got to do this to make the team. I have to hit well. I have to, I'm in a good spot. Like I feel, if I feel good on the baseball field, the rest is going to take care of itself. And I think that's the biggest thing that I'm trying to get better at this year is if I'm doing all the right things and I feel good, then hey, the results are going to be what they're going to be. If I do all the right things, I'm going to be happy at the end of the year because I'm going to be happy with the numbers I put up. So I don't really worry about what I have to do to make the team or what I have to do to be happy with the numbers I'm putting up. I'm going to be happy regardless of the numbers if I know I'm doing the right things.
How do you see though, like dynamics? And I'm not saying you, but other players competing for a spot. I mean, let's just say there's 1, 2, 3, 4 guys competing a spot. Does that relationship get very competitive, and is it very known, or are people a little bit more professional and cordial about it?
Yeah, you'd think it would be kind of more um kind of more competitive. It is competitive, but even in the minors, like you're playing with guys on the same team, you're competing with all those guys for spots. You know, I want to be the best guy on my team in the minor leagues because I'm going to be the guy getting promoted. You know, so it's there. You kind of once you get to pro ball, there's constantly that competition. Even in college, you're still competing for playing time. You know, like all that. You know, I'm everyone at this level is kind of used to that competitive environment, and they're here because yeah, they're really good at baseball, but they're also probably pretty good people to be around. You know, like that goes a long way at this level. So it is like you said, it's fully professional. You know, like guys understand that they're competing for roster spots. Like it's the big leagues. You know, everyone's trying to make the team. I was a non-roster invite last year, probably the last guy in the clubhouse. I was trying to make the team out of camp. Like that was my mindset. You know, I'm still trying to learn as much as I can from Glaber, you know, who's starting, but heck, I want to outperform everyone, you know?
Oh.
But I think that's what makes it great. That's why you want guys like that. You want everyone to, it's healthy competition. You want everyone pushing each other and that's kind of what it's all about.
I completely agree with that. And my last question for you, I know we're coming up. Caleb, how does it feel knowing that in a little bit over a month, your entire life could change? Everything could change. How does that feel?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of time to, like I said, visualize it and think about it. I mean, I almost try to think about it less because it gets exhausting at sometimes. But yeah, I mean, I'm ready. If it happens, I'm ready for it. But I think at the end of the day, like I said, you just gotta work hard, play hard, and try to do all the right things that you can, and be a good teammate, be a good person, and you're gonna have a good life regardless. So I'm excited for the opportunity whenever it comes. Hopefully it's opening day, but yeah, I'm excited for the future.
That fires me up. Everybody on Gross Potential is rooting for you. But anyway, thank you so much, Caleb, for coming on. If you guys have made it to the end of this podcast, keep an eye out for that March 23rd or 26th. See if he's on the starting roster. But please, if you guys haven't followed our show, give us a follow. You haven't rated our show, give us a rate. This is how we can grow and spread these types of messages and expand our platform. We appreciate it as always. Thank you so much for Caleb, for you coming on. So fired up about what's coming with the future. Take care, guys.